So Kinsey is the father of the pedophile movement. He's the father, obviously, of the sexual revolution. He is the father of the homosexual revolution. And within the pedophile world, we're looking at minimum, and it's really so minimum, 317 infants and children, the youngest 2 months, as I said, a 5-month-old, children being sexually molested around the clock by Kinsey's team and by Kinsey, apparently, hands-on, children who fainted, children who had convulsions, children who wept, cried, screamed, I'm quoting Kinsey, and who struck what he called their partner, that is the adult male who's raping these children. And you know, he said that the children enjoyed it. Now, I remember when I first read that in his book, I thought, this guy's got to be a sadomasochistic pedophile, and indeed that is precisely the profile that he himself fits, and he surrounded himself with similar aberrant, dysfunctional, criminal pedophilia associated and bestiality associated people. I mean, this was a really, really whacked out bunch. And from that, he gathered some judges and some lawyers and others of like mind, who then created what's called the American law, the ALI, American Institute, the ALI. Anyway, Model Penal Code, which came out of the American Bar Association, and that Model Penal Code gutted all of the laws that had been protecting women and children in the United States up to 1948 when he hit the scene. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, and every attempt to investigate him has been thwarted. In 1954, there was a major congressional investigation of the philanthropies, and they were supposed to investigate Kinsey's research. The congressman who headed the research project was threatened with having the project stop totaling, his investigation killed, if he dared to expose Kinsey's research. So he backed down. He didn't expose it. In 1995, we tried another investigation of the Kinsey research on children, again, on children. And all that was thwarted. I'm working to try to get an investigation again. The American Legislative Exchange Council, which is a group of conservative legislators nationwide, have produced it's on my website, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this part of it. Not everything, you got to go to the book and read it because you have to know what it says. But anyway, so there's an attempt now to return to do an investigation. If the president apologized for Tuskegee, and if the president apologized for the LSD experiments on our soldiers, we certainly should be getting an apology for the sexual violence and sexual assault done to these children, infants and children, and we most certainly should be doing an investigation of this federally and state-funded group, the Kinsey Institute, which now is still in action at Indiana University in Bloomington.
Wow. I want to make sure I give folks the website as well. Dr. Reisman's website is drjudithreisman.org, and her last name, REISMAN. Dr.
I think it's .com, isn't it? Oh, maybe not. I don't know. I keep forgetting. It's one or the other.
I'm looking at it right now. It says .org.
Oh, is it org? Oh, I've been giving the wrong. Sorry. Oh, dear. Okay. Well, thank you.
No worries. I'll double check as we roll to make sure I'm not in error. Okay. So why not? I want to make sure the numbers for the children who were harmed.
Right.
You said minimum 315.
Yeah, minimum. Okay. It can be up to 2,035. We have one man who bragged that he raped 800 children, and this was a guy who did some of the major some of the major child abuse reporting for Kinsey. And then we also have a Nazi pedophile in Germany who was corresponding with Kinsey and who Kinsey sent letters to and so forth, and encouraged him to continue raping children. Told him that his work could all be used as part of the scientific data. So, again, I cannot emphasize enough that this was an insane man, a sexual psychopath, a sadomasochistic sexual psychopath. He was a pornography addict. He was a homosexual, bisexual, whatever. And I've forgotten all the other things that he was involved in, but I think that'll do it for now.
Wow. In addition, I was reading a lot of what you've written, and I was also able to check out the documentary Secret History, Kinsey's Profile,
yes.
which you made an appearance in.
Definitely.
And they in that documentary, they also said that he engaged in sexual intercourse with his grandmother. Not
Kinsey. It was that man who raped the 800 children. That Kinsey relied on, who had sex with his father, his grandmother, his grandfather, children in the family, and neighbor children. And Kinsey interviewed this guy and never turned him in, of course, never turned him in. And when I wrote to the Kinsey Institute and I asked about where this was at the very beginning, back in the 80s, in 1981, I wrote and I said, where did you get the children and what was the research protocol? The head of the Kinsey Institute, Paul Gebhardt at the time, wrote me back a very polite letter saying that most of the children were experimented on by, various people, nursery schools gave them research and also by homosexual males who did this to the children and used oral and manual techniques. And later on we found out for sure that these children are also not only raped in that manner, but they were also raped sodomized, excuse me. But anyway, this is late at night, so there aren't children out there, huh?
Oh, yeah, we adult broadcast.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, yeah, so this man is critical to everybody's life today. All of our laws that were gutted, very few people realized in 1948, seduction was against the law in the United States. It was a felony crime in California. Rape could get life in half our states. The other half were, capital punishment in half our states. The rest would give life. You're talking about alienation of affection still being in place. The laws were there over time. In this country, of the United States of America, the laws were in place to protect women and children. And that was legitimate because our women in those years were reasonably vulnerable, were not sexually bizarre, as they have increasingly become, and could be trusted for the most part. If a woman said she was raped, most juries and most judges would believe her because virginity was a prized value, and the loss of one's virginity meant that one was really put in a very bad position in society. So very few women had a tendency to lie about those things in those years, and therefore the laws were there to protect and defend them and the family. And that went by the wayside with no-fault divorce, which was a Kinsey product. And, of course, now we're talking about Kinsey's research having been used in 2003 with the sodomy decision with Texas, the Texas decision that legalized all of these activities. Now, that was all based, that entire decision at the U.S. Supreme Court that legalized sodomy, which meant now you could teach it in the classroom, and you could go down to the kindergarten and do that too. I mean, you could teach all the little kiddies what to do. All of that then was based upon Kinsey's fraudulent, and it's not flawed, it's fraud, research imposed upon the great American population. So when you look around you and you see children being increasingly raped, they are. When you look around you and you see the Pentagon reporting 265 people caught, those are the ones that were caught or admitted to downloading child pornography, many of them on the Pentagon computers. No, ladies and gentlemen, that was not the World War II generation. No, ladies and gentlemen, it was a lie about our World War II people and our ancestors. No, ladies and gentlemen, they were not. doing the things that Kinsey said they were doing, but they are increasingly doing them now.
Wow. I guess you have pointed out consistently the huge impact that this criminal and deviant research had and continues to have on people in this area of the world and really beyond just United States. I wanted to start picking out some specific things and just showing how big of an impact this work had. I guess starting with the whole field, the academic field of sexology that kind of grew out of this work.
Yeah, well, there was no sexology being taught. There was no human sexuality being taught. That was the great, quote, contribution Kinsey made. He's going to let us be open about all this, right? Well, in 1948 when he hit, the laws were based on the common law, and the common law was based upon biblical law in the United States of America. And you cannot change laws unless you have a precedent. So the precedent to change our laws had to be science. Okay, so science comes in. Kinsey claims he's done all this methodologically pure research, that America is doing all these bizarre things. But, ladies and gentlemen, he argues, he says, he claims, he proves, quote unquote, there's no real bad consequence to all this promiscuity. We don't have a high rate of venereal disease. We don't have a high rate of out-of-wedlock pregnancies, which we called illegitimate at the time. We don't have a high rate of rape. Oh, gracious, no. We didn't even have contraception widely distributed, and abortion is still illegal during Kinsey. And yet, he claimed there was no real rape. None of this was really doing any harm. So if sex is not doing any harm, promiscuity, and if your parents are a bunch of, quote, hypocrites, which is what all these kids learned when they went to college, then you start the sexual revolution. You fall into that because you can't trust anything your parents say. They've been talking about their virgin experiences, and you've learned in college that your parents are liars. So all that gets kicked out onto the mainstream. You get sex, drugs, rock and roll. You get kids who are calling their parents hypocrites. These are the parents who saved the world during World War II, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the whole thing gets turned on its head. Now we've got the little kiddies hooking up. We've got the children sending dirty pictures of themselves, don't even know it's dirty, to all sorts of people, kidnapping. We have 58,200 children. Even according to the Department of Justice, which does not like to admit these things, 58,200 children kidnapped by not by family members. There were a couple million, that have been in and out of those kinds of problems. But anyway, 58,200 in 1998 kidnapped from their homes, from the streets, from the playgrounds. Most of them coming back home sexually molested, another 200 sexually raped and so forth and killed. And this is not the America of the greatest generation, Mr. and Mrs. America out there. And anybody who tries to tell you differently is way too young and has been watching too much TV and watching too many films and has to start learning a little bit about American history.
So you get this new academic field of sexology, and,
yes.
and you talk about the social engineering that built on Kinsey's work. I wanted to pick out, I guess, a few different topics and see, you can kind of share how the impact that it had. The sexualization of children. One of the quotes that really stood out from the research, it said that we found many beautiful and mutually satisfying relationships between fathers and daughters. That would be Paul Gebhardt, as I recall, or Wardell Palmer, I forget which one. His co-authors, right, who were also his lovers, by the way, part-time lovers. He never stopped, had to hang around with any one guy too long. He liked young, pretty guys, by the way. Those are the only ones he used. Beautiful white Anglo-Saxon fellows, and they had to be part of his harem. This was his harem that he took around with him when he was exploiting during World War II, taking the
the gasoline and the tires that should have been available to our soldiers,